So, I'm Sam, I'm Asian, and what you need to know about most Asians is they cannot swim. And so almost every Asian will have a near drowning, near-death experience story to tell you. Usually it's where they went to a pool party and some well-meaning Aussie friend pushed them into the pool thinking that they could swim. When I went to primary school, I was the only kid in my class who could not swim because I was Asian. And it was compulsory to have swimming lessons, so once a week we went to the pool and the swimming teacher didn't know what to do with me. Up until then, she'd been teaching people to swim who could swim, and she didn't know what to do with someone who couldn't swim. So all she used to do was yell at me, "Swim!" as if that would help. And I would just sing, and she would just say, "Swim!" And one time I sunk, and I breathed in so much water that I vomited my lunch back up into the pool. And so for the rest of the lesson, my lunch was doing laps around the pool. If someone can't swim, there's no point saying swim at them because they would be doing it if they could. And it's the same when we tell Christians, you need to tell your friends about Jesus. And we think, I would be doing it if I could. And just saying tell your friends about Jesus just makes us feel guilty because we think, I would be doing it if you just show me how. So tonight I'm going to give some tips on how to tell our friends about Jesus. About 5 tips. I'm not saying they're silver bullets, I'm not saying they're the best way, but they're a good way and they work for me and they might work for you. You might know better ways, but these are 5 good ways. So I'll give us 5 suggestions on how we can tell our friends about Jesus. So suggestion number 1 is we need to merge our universes. We need to merge our universes and to get our friends to become their friends. So number 1, get our friends to become their friends. Now, last night I shared this story, but most of us weren't here last night. But I said, I've got a story to tell you. Last week, my wife and I were watching TV, relaxing, late in the evening, when this UFO landed in our backyard. And a green man got out and he said, hey, come in the UFO. So we did. We got in the UFO and we went with him to the planet Jupiter, landed there. We got out and he showed us around. We had dinner with his friends and family. Afterwards we said bye, got back in the UFO, and because of the whole space-time continuum thing, only 1 second of Earth time went by, because we went through a time portal, and we came back to the planet Earth. Who here believes the story? Wow, in a room full of 100 people, no one believes the story. Well, I've got another story to tell you. 2,000 years ago, God sent us his son Jesus. Now, he was 100% God and 100% man at the same time, born of a virgin, and while he was alive, blind people, we gave them their sight back. There was a dead girl, he raised her back to life. He died on a cross, and if you believe this, somehow all your sins are taken away. And he didn't stay dead. 3 days later, he came out of the grave, and he's back in heaven now. But because of his spirit, he's everywhere. And if you put your trust in him, his spirit will live in you. And when you die, your soul will go to be in heaven with Jesus. And one day, depending on which denomination you belong to, he'll come back and set up a physical kingdom here on earth. And when that happens, your body will come out of its grave and be reunited with your soul. Now, who here believes me? Wow! So you're room for 100 people. Now, why are we happy to believe the Jesus story, but not the Jupiter story? As I'm telling you the Jesus story, I think even I'm not quite sure I believe this story myself. And you're going to admit the Jupiter story sounds a lot more believable than the Jesus story. So why are we happy to believe the Jesus story, but not the Jupiter story? Because of what philosophers call plausibility structures. You and I have pre-programmed, predetermined plausibility structures that prejudge the stories we hear, and based on that, our pre-programmed, predetermined plausibility structures would prejudge what we hear and determine them to be believable or not believable. So as you're hearing the Jupiter story, your pre-programmed, predetermined plausibility structures are prejudging the story and you're red flagging everything. So as I say a UFO landed in our backyard, your plausibility structures are red flagging and unbelievable, unbelievable, unbelievable. And then we went to the planet Jupiter, got out, bah, bah, bah. Unbelievable, unbelievable, unbelievable. Then we went through a time portal, and only 1 second of Earth time went by. Your plausibility structure is going bah, bah, bah. Unbelievable, unbelievable, unbelievable. I do not believe you. But as I tell you the Jesus story, your pre-programmed, predetermined plausibility structures are green flagging everything. I say, hey, God sent us his son Jesus, 100% man, 100% human, bling, 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 green light, green light, green light, believable, believable, believable. And he died on a cross, and you put your trust in him, your sins are taken away, bling, 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 believable, believable, believable. And 3 days later, he rose back from the dead, out of the grave, and he's alive. Your predetermined plausibility structures, green lighter, bling, 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 believable, believable, believable. Now at this stage you're asking, well, where do I get these plausibility structures from? How am I pre-programmed, predetermined with these plausibility structures? We get our plausibility structures from 3 main sources: community, experience, and facts, data, and evidence. So right now none of us belong in a community where we believe in UFOs. Right now, as I tell you the Jupiter story, none of us have had a personal experience of a UFO. And as I tell you the Jupiter story, none of us here believe there are any facts, evidence, or data to support the UFO story. But as I tell you the Jesus story, most of us here believe in a community that also believes in the Jesus story. As I tell you the Jesus story, most of us here have had a personal experience of the Jesus story. As I tell you the Jesus story, most of us here believe there's enough facts, evidence, and data to support the Jesus story. Now, out of these 3, community, experience, facts, evidence, and data, which one do you think is the most determinative? It's actually community. Rightly or wrongly, whether we want it or not, it's community. And the weakest out of the 3 is facts, evidence, and data, whether you want this to be or not. And so if I was to say to you, hey, if you don't believe my Jupiter story, come in Sydney right now in my backyard, the UFO is still there. Who here would jump on a plane, pay $300 to Qantas to check out the UFO? Who here? No one. See, there is no facts, evidence, or data. And even if you did come and you saw and touched the UFO, think, no, this is some elaborate hoax, and you would explain away the evidence. So facts, evidence, and data, even if it does exist, is very weak in compelling belief and is usually explained away. It's community that's most important in determining belief. We tend to do what the people we know and trust in our community do, and we tend to think and believe the same way people in our community think and believe. So when we had our second son, we took a while to work out what to name him. Now those of you who have children, you know that parents always play this game. When you try to name your kid, you think, okay, I want a name not so common, like a John, Peter, Andrew, but I know what a name so weird or funky, like a Matthew with 3 T's and a silent Q. I just want that name just right. Not too common, not too weird, just right. So everyone say, hey, hip, trendy, cool with the parents, hey, right on that frontier. They must be so edgy. That's the name you're looking for. So then we came up with a name, Cooper. Cooper, not so common, not so weird, just right. And when we named him Cooper that year, Cooper was a top 10 name in Australia. We just do what people around us do. We believe what people around us believe, and we think what people around us think. We are very much products of our community. Now, who here in this room think that women have the right to vote? Who here believes that women have a right to vote? Come on, come on. Come on, even you, everyone, yeah. Even the guys go, yeah. Because we're too scared. I go, yeah. But you know, 100 years ago, a room full of Bible-believing Christians was that, no, women do not have the right to vote. So we're products of our community. And even Liechtenstein in Europe only voted in a referendum 30 years ago that women had the right to vote. We're products of our community. Who here thinks we have a right to free education? The government should pay for our education. Okay, who here? Wow, majority opinion. Okay, room full of Bible-believing Christians. Who here thinks we have a right to free health? The government should pay our health and have a safety net for us. Oh, less hands. Okay, you guys are all white-collar professionals. Reading the mood of the... Got to know your audience first of all as a public speaker. Who here thinks that it should be mandatory, compulsory for motorcyclists to wear a helmet? Wow, okay, big majority opinion. If you went to America, Bible-believing Christians, a room full of this, and I said, who here believes in a right to free education? Psst, no one. Hey, it's my hard-earned money. It's my right to use my money my way. Why should it go to someone who doesn't earn as much, who doesn't work as hard as me? If I came here and said, who here believes in free government-paid health, everyone go, no, my money, I should spend it my way, it shouldn't go to someone else who doesn't work as hard as me. And then in a room full of Bible-believing Christians, who here thinks that motorcyclists should wear helmets? No one would believe it if this was America, because hey, it's his head, it's his right to do what he wants to do. Who am I to tell him what to do? Besides, if he has an accident, he's paying for his health anyway. So, Bible or no Bible, we believe what our community believes. We do think and believe what our community believes. Now, why am I telling you this? Now, imagine you came here tonight, and as I tell you the Jupiter story, I'm the one and only schmuck who believes in the Jupiter story. I'm unbelievable. Say you came here tonight, and this half of the room said, yeah, we had the UFO land in our backyard last week. We also went to Jupiter. I thought that was you I saw. I just wasn't sure. Do you want to wave? Now, how's this half of the room feeling? You're saying, whoa, half this room also believes the UFO story. This is a bit more believable. Let's say you came here tonight, and as I'm telling you the UFO story, the whole room says, yeah, that happened to me last night. Now, you're the one schmuck that didn't have that happen to you. How are you feeling? You're suddenly thinking, hey, this is a lot more believable. And this is Paul's point when he says, hey, I saw Christ risen from the dead, not just me, but the 12 apostles, and not just them, but 500 other people in your community that you know and trust. And now you think, wow, okay, this is a lot more believable. Now, typically as Christians, when we think, oh, I've got to tell my friends about Jesus, we go solo. So we might go join a soccer team or a book club. So in a group of 20 people, we're the one schmuck that believes in the Jesus story. So it might be true, but it comes across as unbelievable. We go solo. What we need to do is merge our universes, get our friends to become their friends. What do I mean by that? Well, typically we have two separate universes as Christians. We have a universe of our Christian friends, a universe of our non-Christian friends. When this universe of Christian friends say, hey, let's go to the movies, we go with them. When our non-Christian universe says, hey, let's go to the movies, we go with them. When our Christian universe says, hey, let's have a barbecue, we go with them. When our non-Christian universe has a barbecue, we go with them. What we need to do is merge our universes and get our friends to become their friends. And so when our Christian friends go to the movies, say, hey, is it all right if I bring some of my work friends along? And when our non-Christian friends go to movies, we say, hey, is it all right if I bring some of my friends along? And bit by bit, we merge the universes. So in a room of 20 people, half will believe in the Jesus story. So it won't just be true, but it'll be a bit more believable. Now, I saw this when I was working as a doctor, because I shared accommodation with other doctors, and in my apartment were 3 non-Christian doctors, and I was the only schmuck, the Christian in the apartment. But my Christian friends from church would always come out and hang out in the apartment, and bit by bit the universes merged. And so when my non-Christian friends, my apartment friends, went off to say, listen to some music, I brought my church friends along. And my church friends had a barbecue. I said, hey, can I bring my apartment friends along? And after 1 or 2 years, the universes merged. And after 2 years, all my apartment friends started coming to my church, and they converted, they gave their lives to Christ after 2 years, because our universes had merged. So that's the first thing I want to say. We need to merge our universes and get our friends to become their friends. Don't go solo, merge our universes. The second thing I want to say is we need to learn to go to their things before they come to our things. Number 2, go to their things before they come to our things. I often get asked to speak at events like this where I get to tell people's friends about Jesus. And my friend Andrew organises a lot of these things, and every time I go speak, I notice that Andrew has 5 non-Christian friends, and they're 5 different friends every time we have one of these things, and they're always happy to be there. And afterwards they come and talk to me, they're so happy to be there. So I said to Andrew's wife, Jackie, what's going on here? How come Andrew is always able to bring 5 friends along, and they're always happy to be here? And Jackie said, that's because this is what we do all the time. We're always going to their things, so it's only natural they come to our things. And so when one of them has a sports game on, we go and watch them play sport. When they have a kid's graduation, we go to the graduation party. When they have a barbecue, we go to the barbecue. So this is one of many things we do, and this is just a normal, natural part of our social life. See, typically, we don't go to their things, and then our churches say, hey, we're putting an evangelistic event on, bringing non-Christian friends, and now we have to work up the courage, got to invite my friends, When's the natural moment, the conversation? And it's awkward and weird because we're not doing this all the time anyway. And usually the churches put weird events on, like you got to invite your men's to some evangelistic breakfast. And you got to think, when do men do breakfast anyway? But okay, now I've got this make or break move where I got to invite a non-Christian friend to a breakfast. So you're going, okay, how do I tell him, hey, do you want to come to a breakfast? We don't do this normally anyway. And then your non-Christian friends are going, okay, here he comes. You know what he's going to do? He's going to want to invite us to one of those breakfasts. But if you're going to their things all the time anyway, it's just natural and one of many things that we do. Go to their things before they come to our things. Number 3, and I shared this last night, I call it the coffee, dinner, gospel sequence. Coffee, dinner, gospel. That's the sequence we work in. Well, what do I mean by this? Well, to understand this, I'm going to share something that happened in the history of Western philosophy. In the 1600s, we had a movement called the Enlightenment, and there was a prominent German philosopher called Immanuel Kant, and he divided the whole known world in the universe into 2 different realms. There was the realm of the phenomenal, and then the realm of the noumenal. Phenomenal, noumenal realm. The phenomenal realm, that's the world of facts, evidence, and data, what you can see, touch, and feel. E.g., the sky is blue, 1 + 1 = 2, water boils at 100 degrees Celsius. That's the phenomenal realm. The noumenal realm, that's the world of values, ethics, and God. Religion. Value, ethics, and God. This is the world where you say chocolate is better than vanilla, James Bond is better than romantic comedies, gun control is good, no, gun control is bad, there is a God, no, there is no God. Now, what's the difference between these 2 realms? He's saying they both exist, but this realm we have access to, we can see it, touch it, and feel it, so we don't have arguments in this area. We don't argue that the sky is blue, 1 + 1 = 2, and water boils 100 degrees Celsius. When I say the sky is blue, you don't go, no, it's not. No, we agree because we have verification. It's very easy to have mutual verification. This is the realm of the noumenal. He's not saying it doesn't exist, but it's impossible to verify. How do you verify chocolate is better than strawberry, or James Bond is better than romantic comedies, or gun control is good, no, gun control is bad, there is a God, no, there is no God. So it exists, but we will never know this world. It's inaccessible. So ever since the 1600s, Immanuel Kant, we have divided the Western world into the phenomenal, noumenal divide, the secular, sacred divide. This is the world of the public. This is the world of the private. Why? Because in public we don't want fights or arguments. If you want to talk about religion, that's done in the privacy of your own home. And so what's happened in the Western world, we have an unofficial closed country where you're not allowed to talk about Jesus in public. If you want to talk about Jesus, you do that in private. So we have official closed countries, but we're actually in an unofficial closed country. So if you felt awkward talking about Jesus in public, you've got a very good reason, because we're an unofficial closed country. And it's not just we that feel awkward, our friends feel awkward talking about, because we're unofficially closed. So let's say I went out there and said, hey, I've got a great idea. Let's go out in the main streets of Melbourne CBD tonight and we'll have an open air prayer meeting, and I'm going to mention the words Jesus and God as often as I can in public. Who wants to join me? No one. There's only one person. Because it will be awkward. But this is a Western thing, the sacred, secular, public-private divide. See, when you go to an Asian green grocery, there's an aisle there. They don't feel that divide. If you catch a taxi with a Muslim driver, you can easily talk to them about God. They don't feel that divide. When you go to the news agency, it's an Asian behind there, and you talk to them about God, they go, oh dude, you're violating my sacred secular divide. They don't do that because they don't have that divide, but in the West, we do. So what does this mean? We're always taught we can't talk about what in dinner parties, politics and religion. Why? Because it's done in the privacy of your own home. So we need to use this, work with it by doing the coffee, dinner, gospel sequence. See, coffee is safe. So invite our friends to coffee, and it's not as easy as it sounds. It takes a bit of effort. Let's go for coffee, let's go for coffee, let's go for coffee. Eventually, this becomes a habit, and coffee is safe. It's public space. It's usually in a shop. It's going to go for minutes rather than hours. And you talk about safe stuff, but the sky is blue, 1 + 1 = 2, water boils at 100 degrees Celsius. You know, what did you do on the weekend? Boy, how hot is it? How about them Bulldogs? Now, after a while, they might feel comfortable enough, hey, let's do dinner. Dinner now is in your home. So now you're slowly moving to private space. And gradually, bit by bit, when you do coffee is minutes, and you're in the realm of the noumenal and talking about safe stuff. Gradually, bit by bit, in private, you talk about values, and conversations go for hours rather than minutes. And they feel safe with you, bit by bit. Belief systems naturally become part of the conversation, and you can talk about worldview, ethics, values, and religion. But you just work on this system, and it doesn't happen overnight. It's about investing time. But coffee, dinner, gospel. Number 4, we need to learn to listen to their story first. Number 4, learn to listen to their story. So usually what happens to me is I'll go to a party, I don't know anyone, the music's pumping, doo, 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 doo. And then, you know, we're trying to shout, hey, you know, what's your name? What do you do for a living? I'm an engineer. And they say, well, what do you do for a living? I teach at a Bible college. The music stops. And it's awkward. So what's happened? Well, we were trying to ask safe questions in the noumenal realm. What do you do for a living? That's a safe, phenomenal realm question. But just by saying I teach at a Bible college, I've dragged it kicking and screaming the conversation way before I was ready into the realm of the noumenal, private, sacred space. And now we're both awkward, and we both say, oh, how about them Bulldogs? Let's go back here. But I've learned, okay, we came here way before we were ready for this, but I give them permission to stay here. And what I do now is I say, okay, do you have a faith? Do you have a faith? And surveys show 4 out of 5 Aussies believe in a supernatural God and life after death. 4 out of 5 Aussies have a faith. And so one time, you know, I was at a party, hey, you know, what do you do? I teach at Bible college. Oh, well, do you have a faith? And she said, yes, I'm a Buddhist. And I went, wow, tell me about that. So get them to tell their story. So tell me, how did you become a Buddhist? Were you always a Buddhist? No. Did you grow up with a Buddhist family? No. How did this happen? Get them to share their story. But then get them to share how it works. How do you pray? How do you worship? How do you raise your children? What are your dreams? What are your ambitions? What are your plans? What does it mean day by day to live as a Buddhist? So learn to listen to them, understand them, and empathize with them. And, you know, they might be an atheist, and that's alright, because that's a faith position as well. Tell me about your faith. You might say I'm an atheist. So you can say, wow, tell me about that. Tell me about the God you don't believe in. Or tell me how you became an atheist. And they might tell, you know, I was an atheist, brought up in an atheist family. Not that makes me an atheist, but at the age of 16, I had to make a decision for myself. But you get them to share their story. And I was sharing last night that, you know, I was flying to Adelaide. I had to give exactly the same talk for City Bible Forum in Adelaide. And I was sharing last night, I'm actually an introvert. I'm a loud introvert, but I'm an introvert, and I need a lot of quiet, private space to recharge before one of these sort of events. So I'm jumping on a plane, it's 5 o'clock. In just a few hours, I'm going to be in front of 200 people in Adelaide, give me this talk. And so I sit down on the plane. Just before I sit down, just before I could get the earplugs, the white earplugs in my ears, which is the international symbol for do not talk to me, the guy next to me, he starts talking to me. Oh. So he says to me, so why are you going to Adelaide? Is for work or play? And I go, work. And it's silent. He wants me to reciprocate. Oh, okay. So why are you going to Adelaide? I just gave some talks in Sydney. Silence. Okay. What sort of talks were they? Well, they were for postgraduate doctors on the physics of radiology. I thought, I can't believe it. I did that same exam 30 years ago. Now we have something in common. So I shared that with him. And then he said, well, what are you talking on in Adelaide? I go, here it goes. I said, I'm giving a talk from the Bible. What's that? I go, I can't believe it. I'm just about to tell people in Adelaide what to do when this happens. I'm just such a hypocrite. Okay. Do you have a faith? And then he said, yes, I do. I grew up in South Africa. I checked out Christianity. I went to churches as a teenager, and that's when I discovered it was a front for hate crimes against gays. And I went, wow. Tell me about that. Tell me how that happened. Well, what churches, what did you see? Tell me about your journey. How did this happen? And I got him talking for 60 minutes. Non-stop monologue. You know, we ask someone what they did on the weekend, and they go for 1 minute. At some stage they reciprocate and say, what did you do for the weekend? And then you get 1 minute. That's the game. He said, if you let them go for 10 minutes, they give you longer. They give you 10 minutes. So you let them tell their journey, their story, as long as you can. At some stage, and he'd gone on for 60 minutes, and by now he raised his objections against Christianity. It's anti-scientific, it's anti-gay, all the other religions are the same anyway. And I just kept going, wow, tell me why you think that. Wow. Hear him, understand him, empathize with him. Yeah, I can totally get why you feel that, why you like, I get it. And then there was silence after 60 minutes. And I said, would you like to hear my story? And he went, yes! and so he let me go for 30 minutes. And when the plane landed, he said, thank you so much. We swapped contact details. And he said, that made the journey go so quickly. And I thought, not for me. But that's number 4, learn to listen to their story. We often think, what do I have to say? There must be there must be a track. No, just let them talk. Give them permission to stay in the noumenal, private, sacred space, and give them permission to feel safe in this space. And the art of listening. And then finally, number 5, learn to tell our story. Tell our story. So when you say, do you have a faith? And when they have finished, they will say, well, tell me about your faith. We could, at that moment, try to give them points about Christianity, and we can, that works. But I'm starting going, well, how about I answer that by telling you how I became a Christian? Would you like to hear that? Tell you how I became a Christian. And that's much easier to tell, a story. They can't disagree with the story. They're not going to debate your story. So you say, hey, how about I just tell you how I became a Christian? And if you gave them 1 minute, you have 1 minute. You gave them 10 minutes, now you've got 10 minutes. And this is when you say, well, I grew up in a Christian family. Not that makes me a Christian, but at the age of 16 I had to make a decision. I was like, no, that is not what you say. Because that is Christian code, Christian jargon. Anyone who's not a Christian has no idea what you're talking about. And it sounds like you've just got the same testimony as everyone else in the room. Like, how is it personal? So learn to personalise our story. And stories come in 3 parts. There's an introduction, who you are. There's a middle bit, the crisis of who you are, and there's a conclusion. So basically, God has made us all a certain way, a certain characteristics. We all have dreams, God-given ambitions. These are God-given desires. They're right, they're legitimate. But we've all found wrong ways of trying to fulfill those desires. Or these desires have a flip side, a negative side. But show how it's Jesus who will fulfill these desires. I'll give you an example. This is my story. I'm Asian. I'm a high achiever, I was that annoying kid. So for example, give 4 examples. So now it's your testimony, not anyone else's in the room. For example, I was that annoying kid in primary school who would stick up his hand and say, hey miss, I finished all my work, can I please have some more work? I was an annoying kid in high school who got 99% in the exam and thought, where did the other 1% go? And I got into medicine at Sydney University, top 1% of the state. Hey, that's what every high achiever wants. And now you show the crisis. But the problem with being a high achiever is there's always another mountain to climb. The trophies are more for you than your friends. You're deeply insecure and you remember your failures more than your successes. For example, when I was a doctor, I went to 100 ward rounds, but the one I remember the most is the one they showed the x-rays where my operation went wrong. And so you are motivated by pride, insecurity, and a craving for success. And now you come to the bridge moment between the body and the conclusion, and that's when you introduce the gospel. Oh, now I've been brought up in a Christian family, so I sort of knew about Jesus all my life. Yes, I knew that he had forgiven me. Yes, I knew I had a free gift of going to heaven. But up until now, I don't think I realised that. It's only when I opened the Bible for myself that Jesus was perfect, so I didn't have to be perfect. Jesus was perfect, so I didn't have to be perfect. And because of that, I could just trust in Jesus and just finally chill and just be me. And this came to a big crisis one day when I had to make a decision, should I stay as a doctor or take up a chance to tell people about Jesus on a more full-time basis. And you know, being a doctor is great if you're a high achiever. Bank managers want to talk to you, people want to talk to you at dinner parties. If you want to tell people about Jesus, bank managers do not want to talk to you, and people at dinner parties do not want to talk to you. But you know what, I thought, I'm comfortable with who I am now. I don't need the status or the success because Jesus is perfect, so I don't have to be perfect. The amazing thing is he loves me so much, he actually doesn't want to leave me the way I am. So every day is a new day in a journey where I become more and more like Jesus. So you share with them, and that would replace the I grew up in a Christian family, I knew Jesus all my life story. And that means we can go home, it takes ages, so the first bit's the hardest one. Who am I? Who am I? How has God wired me? What are my dreams? What are my pains? What are my God-given dreams and ambitions? How has this led to an idolatrous way of trying to fulfill this without Jesus? How does the gospel give Jesus to me? And what's an example where I had to make a make or break decision to follow Jesus instead of my idolatrous plans? So learn to retell our story, and I'll throw in a 6th point, which will only go for 30 seconds. And the 6th point is at this stage you go, wow, I've heard your story, I've just told you my story, but you know what, there's a story in the Bible that really explains this better. Can I just share with you one very short story from the Bible about Jesus? And that's when you just share your favourite story about Jesus. It doesn't have to be word for word memorised perfect from the Bible, because the Bible's in Greek anyway, so you're always going to be giving a translation, so you might as well just give your own translation. It gives you a chance to translate the Bible your way, the way you should have always been translated. And now you just share a story. And the one I like is the one about the Pharisee and the tax collector. So there's one that really explains what it's like for a high achiever to finally find Jesus. And I tell in my own words the story of the tax collector and the Pharisee. So, what are the points tonight? Number 1, we need to get our friends to become their friends. Number 2, go to their things before they can come to our things. Number 3, coffee, dinner, gospel. Number 4, learn to listen to their story. Get that dog as long as you can. And listen, hear, understand, and empathise with their story. Number 5, learn to tell our story as a story. And number 6, you can, you know what, just let me share one story from the Bible that better explains what I am. And at the end you say, hey, what did you think about that story in the Bible? What did you like about it?